Excavating something should mean that at some point you have excavated it, and it should become a matter of what it has been excavated. And here I become again reminded myself and to be reminded everyone else that I have started this entire matter as a revolution in the name of the order itself, in the name how organization and order on this planet builds, in the name of how society started to build, in the name of protecting above all of leaders and leadership, because I have noticed that exactly leadership and leaders have become subject to various violations of their own rights, integrity and even identity. Latest, integrity and identity. Continuing to build empowered masses that become like some kind of thirsty creatures, waiting to be fed free of charge, accommodated, to be given everything for free, within the latest platforms of our big-hearted nature, being sorry and responsible, feeling responsible about the people in the state, ending up to offer everything for free, and in such a way actually creating a mass of dependents that continue to be scrupulous and lack responsibility to understand that something will need to be given in return. And that something is respecting and appreciating of the one that are providing you what you found critically important for ongoing development of the population, that is of your state formation. Yet I'm going to notice continuing to be very little sense for giving back the respect, the appreciation, the recognition, learning and defending on better terms. Who is standing for you and who is not. Learning how to make a difference, who is to be respected and who is not. You continue to respect one with more money than one that have been standing with you in all of the times, in all of the centuries, defending your positions, giving you statehood, giving you roof above your head, giving you integrity, giving you transcending their integrity and their identity over your national identity, giving you their aura of sainthood. You have not returned. You have not returned to these people. You have not given to these people appreciation. You have not given to these people respect. You continue not to think properly when it comes to the concept of organized society. You continue to ignore the forces that have been always there for you. You continue, in contrary, you have ended to actually vandalize them, to sell them on the market and live out of it. And then you declare freedom. When you, on your terms, decide how that freedom is going to happen. Everyone is now, we have leadership within the leadership within the leadership. Everyone is leader. Everyone wants to be their ways. That is another syndrome of human. When that initial temple, with these initial temple dimensions become dispersed within the bloodline, and it's hard even to find true leaders. But when you find them, you don't trash them like this. I find that a bit stupid. unresponsible and highly inappropriate. I'm not going to beg for another day for what's mine. Either I get my working place or I don't. If I don't get it, as I so far I have not been given, this conversation will end. So I want to conclude here how it started and why it started above all. It started upon the realization that my entire family, especially my line of my mothers, belonged to some kind of element of depreciation. I found myself clicking completely with my pointless life, clicking in that kind of very big force of dragging my mother's line like that. Became concerned not to find my kids in similar situation. It was because of my kids above all. It was to stop that destiny to go to my kids. Certainly not aiming to find them on the side of devils because of that. And continue to be my profound concern above all about their safety and my own safety. In the process, it has become, my attention went to go in different direction. People started to cry under my windows, and planetary desperation became offered on my plate. And I found all of that very much actually consequence of lack of correct leadership. So my work profoundly was built upon explaining to you, demonstrating to you how important is leadership. Yet I'm not going to allow to sink completely upon my try to explain to you the importance of leadership. If so far you have not understood it, then you have not understood it. It's your way you have selected. Continue to be my ongoing, enormous concern to save my kids and myself. And you, that's your responsibility. Above all, that's your responsibility. Because here, that is how things are still. I am the blind Themis, and so be it. I cannot be responsible for what I can't see. I continue to be highly concerned and continue to notice also that people are playing with my concern. And they want to deliver a sensation of I'm burning, I am in the burning mode. Well, I'm trying to explain the importance of leadership on Earth. Somewhere here, you will be confronted as a planet with this particular question, as I have no intention to burn further on. While teaching you importance of leadership. We brought this on considerably absolute levels, where it belongs, naturally. And it's still profoundly identified as a matter of senses emerging from this identity, that are senses for leadership and explaining to people. As I have said, I'm not going to burn on it. It doesn't prevail, it doesn't prevail. The message has been delivered. I'm going to leave it there. I have recognized, therefore, that the planet does have problem for quite some time, the problem and question of leadership, where leadership itself, the sainthood itself, has become targeted by various financial schemes, later financial corporations, and later the entire system of financial industry. That is what makes this issue profoundly reaching the defining point of the civilization itself. And I have discussed at the very beginning of my book under the title The Swirl of Exploitation, that is regretfully where we find our world today, belongs completely to swirl of exploitation. It's very easy to presume that eventually it would have been such protocol used by extraction of some kind of extraterrestrial forces. Equally, it is certainly very convenient. Once you set the planet on such negative parameters versus its own houses of sainthood, it's where is the stop line, as they would say, the where are the boundaries of my dreams? Like only the sky is limit. No, actually, it can be that sky is not a limit as well. But on what side of the equation you end up to be? On what boat you are? That at some point that become ultimate question. This is why today I have brought your attention to planetary level of integrity. And that we have to assess our affairs from that level of integrity. You cannot dream sky. You are obliged to behave responsibly in certain realm and to recognize where is your place and what is your role. That is the concept of living in a society, isn't it not? And that's the criteria upon you decide who is going to be accepted in the society and who cannot be accepted in the society. Well, the fact is that we found ourselves building societies based on people that are that are anti anything that we would find in some kind of sainthood-driven parameters of defining a world. Antichrists, demons, demonizing practices, and only the sky is limit. Excuse me. In regard of what perspective taken? That is what today we have to notice. As when are in question more specific territories, you find good and bad people on any territory. The ultimate question becomes what the system end up promoting and rewarding and supporting, and from what point of stronghold that pipe starting to function. Today it is pointless to discuss territories. Today we have to discuss how things has been done. The value system itself employed on territories and who is imposing that and such value system. It would be imposed by whom and by what? These are critical questions of today. We found England very much today in longer period of time being involved in affairs that are profoundly existing within some kind of parameters of extracting the leadership from our territories, from our ancient territories. Either it is ancient Macedonia, ancient Egypt, that part of central ancient plateau that would have been evolving in times within some kind of more recently recognizable and recently established, still kind of matter of more kind of general education recognized as some kind of higher points of civilizational performance at some point of time. Specifically Philosophy of various kinds. Now it is all being driven to Atlantis, and of course the rest of the territories today would have right to question that. How much we can sum the entire philosophy just to some kind of Aristotle's and Atlanteans. Especially, I'm questioning it from the point of view of a woman as well, and female energy. But fact is that the territories continue to be targeted to present days and be used in some kind of mode of pumping, being pumped out completely in any single regard. And that will need to be noticed now as a planetary problem number one, how the planet behaves and how it builds its value systems. And we cannot accept such approaches in building civilization anymore. I am replacing it with much more national level oriented approach in improving the ways of living on your territories. Most of the territories does have either natural, either very convenient, very supportive geographic location, or they have very strong historic heritage in terms of developed ways of living and organizing themselves, have enough strong starting point to continue to be strongly present on the planet without the need to play devil role of a devils on earth. That is what I'm pledging today, and then I'm pointing out where should be our attention as well as a planet to recover the one that have been constantly sucked out. And of course, I'm going to find central positions here in critical position. In some critical position, of course, I am employing personal perspective here, where I have been born, what issues I have been observing. I don't exclude the right to any other territories to speak out about their own issues, but certainly not to underestimate or diminish the right of the rest of the territories to equally bring forward their perspective and how they would notice the present planetary problems. Fact is that this central ancient plateau continue to be targeted for searching for leaders, including by other territories, as it is Africa or China or Russia or Nordic territories. They all go there, they're all present there, that's noticeable, because they're all searching for pharaohs, they're searching for leaders. And we have to proceed, and that is creating that kind of adverse behavior. And when you try to cover up for your wrongly positioned behavior. And how we address that? First of all, I have argued that means one thing. If that is the land of kings, well, then declare it as a land of kings. And live by the facts. Build it as a center of the planet, like in Star Wars. Then create that center of Earth, and everyone live in peace. If that is what has been established, then build it as a proper leadership for the planet. And clearly, that's the most correct answer today, because that is the location, geographic place, geographic location. When you stand there, you are not biased, neither versus north or south or east and west. You become you gain the most balanced approach. You are naturally neutral because your geographic position is neutral. Now, someone declared Switzerland in last century neutral. How on earth Switzerland can be neutral? Neutral are our territories, and they have been extracting our natural neutrality sentiment and transforming it into Switzerland's story. Of course, became matter of some kind of artificial agreement, artificially created, and was lasting as that long as it lasted. Because it was nothing of neutral. It was profoundly Western approach and continued to be pro-Western because it is in question West Europe and would be constantly always would put on first place the integrity of Western Europe rightfully and correctly, and no one can deny them that right. What can be denied is that they from such position declare Earth Protocol. These are different positions. Today I declare this Earth Protocol based on such geographic position in which I continue to mentally project. And it is not problem. It is not It is possible because I'm born there. I have been living there. I still have family, friends, memories there. So it's not hard to project that. But what I want to say here, and what I have to say, is that truly that has become very neutral, as you have become witnesses yourself, how profoundly that appear as a neutral positioning, where you feel equally, or you are relating equally to territories in much more kind of balanced way. It's the nature of the territory itself, and it will be always like that. That is why we'll continue to be target for searching for world level of leadership that then would be acquired for national needs and would like to bring their nation on higher position, but always would end up being tricked by it and would be paying high price by it, because they have been violating the natural sentiment created in centuries and centuries, millenniums and millenniums, and have tried to translate it into their narrow national interests, and always find themselves failing, always find themselves on tiny eyes, for one reason or another. First of all, because of the play of the genetic itself. Genetic itself become rather Frankenstein. A Frankenstein, literally. And that practice should stop. Simply should stop. I certainly have used what happened in last century in Germany to point out that we talk here about this is example of vandalization of Temple of Mary, of Israel, or Mary of Serbia, or Mary of Macedonia, or Cleopatra in substance would have been some kind of pharaoh grave from Egypt. And the people are just continue to play with these things, continue to build Frankensteins, and then try to just blame it on one person, rather than to point out what is the real issue here. And the real issue being, you are messing up with upper temples, and you are continue to produce Frankensteins for political leaders, and expect results, short-term results, fill their pockets, declare some kind of wealth groups, and have without any idea what next they're supposed to do with it, because all become artificial gain, and ultimately become destructive for everyone, including for themselves. And now someone was out there to talk about justice and correctness. Excuse me, where is your starting point? What is your starting point? Your national integrity? We are not today in that kind of game. Whoever it is, we are not in that kind of a game. We are not going to defend now English national integrity. Why? Well, because we have established England to be rather part of the problem. One of the biggest, actually. As far as they're declaring the biggest crown of the earth, would be one of the biggest problems exactly on this line of issues I'm just discussing here for 15 years. And excuse me, I cannot grant to England right to conduct investigation where England is the biggest part of the problem as we speak. I'm going to ask England to drop it, or they might end up as Germans in last century, by the nature of the events themselves. And I'm certainly not going to borrow my kids to England to play sacrificed Jesuses. Because why I would give my kids to England to play of them sacrifice Jesuses and England go away with the wealth in the pockets? Why I would accept that? Now you want to talk about justice? It's time that you understand there is a person already talking about justice for 15 years, and the question is, are you listening enough, England? I have asked Russia, actually established, Russia is listening. Russia is listening. Now it is time to ask England, are you listening enough, England? England, are you listening enough before you continue to speak about the legal system yourself ahead and in ignorance on the fact that I am charting about it already 15 years. I'm going to find that profoundly disrespectful, profoundly wrong, and rather suicidal. You don't fight in the name of Excalibur not having Excalibur, not being an Excalibur. You don't found as a round table not being a round table. You either end up as a Thelma and Louise, America and England. And not that they have been found on the wrong side of the equation, that is the entire Western society. They continue to, without any discussion on any need for a reform of their positions, they continue to talk anti-Russian language. Now latest, Europe is to decide to use frozen assets of Russia to arm Ukraine. What a fool, what a lunatic can say something like that. That is like adding additional oil on the fire. Instead that we move towards peaceful agreement, you're talking about increased war operation. Why anyone would say such things? Well, you are today as a West part user, the highest user of the biggest financial scheme on the planet, which in substance it is being Jesus' bloodline in reference to political leadership and misusage of political leadership. You as a Westland, you as a Western civilization, and you continue to ignore what is the main subject of present discussion on the planet. On top of that, you continue to increase your negative position on the planet. Who on earth it is you to decide about, first of all, to freeze Russian assets, let aside to use them? How about we talk about freezing your assets? Because in the context of discussion I am presenting, that is actually what really will need to happen. That is, we need to freeze all of the assets on the planet that continue to be claimed as ownership by various oligarchs. Well, actually, we would rather need to talk about most correct definition of political leadership and institution of political powers in much more straightforward terms. So yes, we actually need to freeze the oligarchs declaring ownership of assets which are actually temple territory, temple references, or a reference to political leadership first account in most of the cases. I mean, being today the main subject of attention, although we might talk about a variety of different high-level performances, which continue to be subjected within some kind of ownership protocol, as some kind of slaves or something. That is how you get the Star Protocol equally in America squared. You have all sizes, all types of these various, all aspects, all different areas of star level performance, hard work, dedication, results end up to be clearly treated as some kind of ownership and possession, and the outside factor end up deciding upon their lives, about how they are going to be treated and things like that, end up being enslaved, and it's to be enslaved category. being profiled, being directed, being managed, being owned, and being controlled. Well, in substance, you would say, excuse me, the same level. I deserve rather to be in control, at least in regard of my own life and my own decision making. These people continue to be targeted. They cannot find even a boyfriend. They need to steal a boyfriend. Sell billions of boyfriends out there. They need to steal a boyfriend. That is how far their freedom become limited, and how far they ended up to be massacred, actually, in this kind of protocols. Literally massacred upon their own talent. Upon their own talent. And now you want to talk about extraterrestrialism? Excuse me, why we don't talk about stars first? Because I can see that is one of the most used reference on any of the political flags. So why we don't talk about symbol of star first being present on any single political flag? Before you continue to talk about extraterrestrials. Nailing in Macedonian means cleanest. Cleanest is another reference to little kids. So figure out, they have been talking about nailing Jesus. They have been actually, it interferes with the word, you read the word cleanest, or they reach the word little kids. Pay attention, actually. So history is nothing. You read the words, think they mean something, but actually they mean completely something else. Because you have certain words that have double meaning, and which is completely opposite. So cleanest, which is nail in Macedonian, have double meaning. It can mean nail, but also it's slang. That's very, very famous, very used, often used slang for little kids. So it's not that much Irish after all. It's rather Macedonian, brought in Ireland when they collected certain tribes from Macedonia. So historic point. That is how even Stonehenge became built out of stoning women in Iran. Which one would assume can also be very pagan. And here, if we found Macedonians already guilty for some kind of invention of their foxy nature, I mean, where that would stop. Another puzzle here is fox is in reference to red hair, and that is actually Irish, so we don't know what's older here. We were thinking all the time that that's Macedonian territory, but actually everyone disregarded Khazaria. I'm going to assume Khazaria is actually very much in a given time became oasis of Western Celts, of Irish Celts. And from then they slid and found Macedonia at some point of time, and somehow build Macedonia as their kingdom, because you have Alexander, their king, making that kingdom of Khazaria. I claim Macedonia was kingdom of Khazaria. At some point, shrinked form of kingdom of Khazaria. That is going to explain the question that I never was capable to explain. Why on earth you refer to Mediterranean country as a blonde territory? That will never pass any time investigation. And there was no answer to it. Now we have the answer. The answer would be at some point of time Khazaria simply ran, when Khazaria was broken finally, these people started to run away somewhere. That was the escape territory. Macedonia was escape territory for Khazars, red-haired Khazars, which are extension of Vikings of Britannia. Because they become very known by their fearless nature and very successfully defending the territory in very longer period of time. become very famous as a warriors. Red-haired warriors in Central Asia, that would be Vikings. And you have that story of Tarzan. You remember the story of Tarzan? How they lose the baby? How Tarzan emerged? They dropped the baby there. Well, we don't know. That's not exactly dropping the baby. This is exactly creating a kingdom and given point of time, because everyone was going somewhere else. Why they would not going somewhere else as well? Being on the west, of course they would go east. In the same with the same logic, how east was going and marching on west. Macedonia is. That is what it is. It's a road. It's on the way of running away from enemies when it has become broken, when they lose the battle. The point being, we have common denominator, Macedonian culture, British culture. The common denominator is actually Khazaria. So my question today, where I'm going to draw the line today, is my theory of central plateau is of managing of Earth would need to be amended from the ancient Macedonian perspective, because ancient Macedonian perspective would withhold much more of a white element, which I don't deny it is critically important in the present times, because we have something like extinction of a white race, and white race has become at the moment is losing its battle on the field of building more serious economic strength and being more serious competitive force on the international markets, which somehow it would be peculiar, because white men in substance deliver, I would argue, the most final stages of its filtering somehow in some kind of final stage the entire civilizational development, bringing that level of sensitivity we are all looking for, refinement we are all looking for, distilled, somehow distillated, filtered through the times, the set of value systems. Regulative equally gets there. And you can't, when you bring that level of regulative and that level of standards, you can't always win the game with capital as well, when capital on the other side of the equation is continue to be profoundly dirty, and your legal system and your cultivated behavior does not allow you, does not permit you to build, to use dirty platforms for creation of money. So how you compete with these societies? You have in China enormous, ongoing, continuous, enormous exploitation of human rights, and that is not affecting Chinese companies being discussed on international markets with the highest rate of increase of profit. International markets do not filtrate that level, such level of information. And that is where we need to question the game of playing a civilization on this earth. Are we playing a civilization, or we are actually surrendering it? Or appears to be exactly the second one. I mean, even if it is our puzzle today, if it is that we have that kind of hard question in front of us, well, is it not human being challenged by confronting the hard questions rather than surrendering itself upon them? Since when human surrenders to hard questions? Since when? We don't run away from hard questions. We confront them. This work certainly stepping up in that direction. And the hardest question of mine is going to be how I reconcile the promise I deliver to this planet of most neutral and most balanced management of the planet, while in the same time I feel rather protective of accomplished level of civilizational development prevailing on the white territory. I can easily be defined as a racist as well, while on the other side I'm pledging leadership for the planet. But somewhere here in all of that, I still strongly believe that is possible, to be racist and to deliver planetary platform, because everyone in this game is in certain way racist. They just don't want to admit. Nationalism in substance is racism. In the way how Africans are talking about it is racism. Black racism. In the way how Chinese are talking about that is racism. In the way how any other nation, South Americans are talking about it is racism. These are all racism events. Why we only recognize white racism and we don't recognize other racisms, and we have developed such negative feelings versus white racism, which rather would be defense protocol to which any race should be entitled. In all the times, the highest puzzle I could have not answered is why no one seen African, completely black, all black African continent as a matter of racism, but white continent which clearly does not even exist, white race continue to be racist, well, we hardly can talk about white continent nowadays. Actually, we can't talk about white continent. That is how far white race has lost its positions, and everyone continues to think of white race when they talk racism. That is the biggest puzzle I found of the present times. And then you find Mecca platform in the center of Middle East, and no one wants even to talk about it. Palestinians that are closer to Mecca protocol, because obviously would be descendants in a way I can imagine of that Hazaria event. They continue to be targeted. The moment I say something that's like multiplied in direction opposite of where I'm going. Like someone who is dedicated to do it exactly opposite of how I'm going to say. I'm going to find rather monstrous. I'm going to find that rather monstrous. Exactly like that. Rather monstrous. Actually monstrous. I can imagine the monsters would be hiding under any skin. And today certainly they prevail under the dark skin. Because the devilship on the planet continues to deploy itself profoundly from the side of dark-skinned population. Either are the Asiatic territories with completely obsolete value systems and completely obsolete economy that does not give a damn about it, does not move for an inch out of it. They're ready now to talk about BRICS like they're drunk sailors on the boat, and they continue to drink because that's the most natural thing you do when you're drunk. When you're drunk, the most logical event that you're doing is to continue to drink. That's phenomenon drunk sailor. To drunk sailor, it's not logical to stop drinking. That's not logical from perspective of drunk sailor. And that is why it's not happening, because from that perspective, it's not logical. Or I stand on the white territory and some cakadoos are lining up out there. I am supposed now to defend the white cakadoos. And why on earth I would be defending white cakadoos? Why on earth I would be doing that either? Explained in what context I'm promoting today white race, and if they're not capable today to play by the stamp, then they should stop buzzing around as well from the white possessions, as they won the Oscar. What a definition of a doomsday altogether. I am going to repeat, white race, as any other race, has nothing to be afraid of. Play by the rules. Bring forward the ones that are worthy enough. Stop shooting yourself in a foot and then expecting to walk. Play by the rules. You can afford it. Play by the rules.